Hello and welcome to my favourite part of a project's release calendar, the director's commentary for Adulthood, Healing Through a Real Pain. This documentary was a lot of fun to make and I enjoyed every second of it, trying to do new things, trying to give you new exciting things to do and see. And I really think I achieved it because people were really saying they really enjoyed Boyhood Road to the Sober Bowl because of like its serious tone and how well balanced it was. And I decided to go back to my roots with this documentary and give you guys just a straightforward documentary because I know Boyhood to the Future was a bit of fun. I really enjoy making Boyhood to the Future and I really enjoyed it, but I want to go back to my roots. Now, this scene is really interesting. Not just because I'm sat next to a viral meme in 6-7, but also because it was a complete accident. Because after a day of filming, my regular respite after filming is to go to the cinema. And obviously, because this documentary was about my favourite movie, I was hoping to get permission to film in here for this particular scene. But what happened was, I ended up being the only person in that room, grabbed my pocket free, and just filmed it anyway. So you will not believe how happy I was when that happened. Right, the next couple of scenes are going to be really interesting because I'm going to take you through the pencil sketch feature. The magic of the pencil sketch for me was all about hiding or battling the copyright issues in the most creative way I could possibly think. Because I was getting really bored and really tired of seeing people just blur stuff out to avoid copyright. So what I did was is I just added a colour sketch, pencil sketch to these scenes and just brought out the colour. This right here is a rotoscoping of the two of them in colour, accepting awards behind the black and white backgrounds of those acceptance speeches. Really enjoyed those. But here are the two tips I would give for dealing with colour sketches in pencil sketch. Is you really have to do two things. Remove the lift and increase the the actual stroke strength because you'll get more of the pencil design and then you'll get the colour back in because what pencil sketch tends to do is it takes the colour out and washes it out. But if you remove the lift because the washout makes it very pale, you'll get the colour back and you'll get the stroke strength to make it really look like it's hand drawn. Simple enough, a lot more simpler than when I tried to do it in the last project. Let me tell you, get DaVinci Resolve Studio, people. Uh, that's my main advice right there. Get DaVinci Resolve Studio if you are able to. Right, this is pretty simple. As I said, I kind of love and hate the color grade in this scene. Word to the wise, if you like orange and like warm color grades and you're a filmmaker, don't have a mocha 20 seconds before filming it because it will make your teeth look like absolute dross. that that is my main piece of advice here. But yeah, this scene was quite a lot of fun. Um, because it allowed me to rectify something that I wasn't particularly a fan of in Boyhood Road to the Sober Bowl, where I liked the first person view that you guys got because I thought it was nice and immersive and stuff. But I didn't like the fact that you couldn't see my face. Um, and that was something I really wanted to rectify, which is why this is filmed on my DJI Pocket 3 instead of my GoPro. Um, because I really liked having the option of two different camera angles at my disposal, and this is what the DJI Pocket 3 allowed me to do. Um, and it's so fun to use a DJI Pocket 3 just in general. Like, it's probably my favourite piece of equipment that I own. And particularly, I use Rode clip-on mics, as you can possibly see. Oh, and by the way, people that hold their clip-on mics instead of wearing them, there's a special place in hell for you. I just want you to know that. Because there is no need. It is clip-on. Wear it, please. The receiver goes into the Pocket 3. So as soon as I figured that out, I was like, this piece of equipment is the most orgasmic thing I've ever seen in my life. This is the greatest piece of equipment ever. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, because obviously, when I used to film these sorts of things on my GoPro back in the day, I would have to plug it into my phone, and you can't use the media mod, which is how you put the microphone into the GoPro and the chest mount at the same time. So it was basically pointless. Um, anyway, so I was like, and then when I figured out that it could just be this simple with a DJI Pocket 3, and I get two angles instead of one, I do wish it zooms though. I would have liked to have been able to flip the camera around and zoom in on the spar, which I didn't get to do. I did mention that whilst filming it. Um, but I think what I really like about this scene is the colour grade, because I really do think I brought the best out of the weather with this colour grade, and I did really enjoy it. As I said, the only problem I have with the colour grade is what bringing those colours in has done to my teeth. I don't know. It makes it look like I've smoked 20 cigarettes a day, honestly. Um, but other than that, I really enjoyed this colour grade, and I really enjoyed shooting this scene. I think I did a really good job at kind of realising before I started filming going to not do the full walk, and kind of realised that the story was more important than actually filming the whole walk itself. Because this is what this documentary was about. Really, was about rectifying the mistakes of the previous two documentaries by only making it seem like one of my favorite relationships in my life just crumbled, and that was it. Uh, and I think that was kind of the scene. This is kind of the scene that I was dreaming of making back when I wrote this documentary. Like, this is the scene that I was thinking about when I was editing Boyhood Road to the Sober Bowl and Boyhood to the Future. This is the scene that I wish I could have put into those previous documentaries, because I think it just brought to light what made my former best friend so special in just a short period of time. Bearing in mind, I hadn't even known them that well when this event took place. And this is the scene that I was thinking of all those times where I would edit like the beer keller scene and be absolutely annoyed at myself for having to rehear my mistakes over and over and over again. This is the scene that I would think about when those editing sessions got hard in Boyhood Road to the Sober Bowl. Not necessarily in Boyhood to the Future, because Boyhood to the Future was an absolute blast from start to finish. But this is the scene that I knew that was going to bring the audience back to Earth and kind of bring the audience back into the universe where these documentaries live. And I really, really enjoyed actually getting an opportunity to sit back and edit and film and write about the good parts of the most cherished part of my entire life. And it's not been as fun as like Boyhood to the Future, because obviously Boyhood to the Future was basically a comedy with documentary elements in it. But yeah, it was just so nice to finally sit down and work on something that, in my mind, mixed both the positive moments of Boyhood to the Future and the dark moments of Boyhood Road to the Sober Bowl. Now, this scene here, my god, did I have trouble with this scene. This, my friend, is my first experience with DaVinci Resolve Smart Switch Multicam, which on paper sounds like a really good idea. Well, it is a really good idea if you're not trying to do a Netflix style and put themed backgrounds behind it, because the rendering of this magic mask was an absolute pain in the arse. I would literally put it on to render and cut everything out, because what I ended up doing is basically I made angle 1, did the magic mask, put the background in, tracked it, and then exported it, put it in a file, in a folder, and then I'd do the same with angle 2. But then the amount of times my computer would be 3/4 of the way finished to tracking both these angles, and then the computer just died, and obviously because I was like making breakfast or going to the shop or something, because it would take ages and just didn't know, then I would just have to do the whole process again. And it was so annoying. And fun fact, this scene right here is the reason why Adulthood was delayed in the first place, because my computer just kept dying on itself over and over and over again. But my god, does this scene look gorgeous though. Like, I'm really proud of how it looks, and I'm really glad I persevered with it, but Jesus Christ, if you are going to do Magic Mask, please keep it to short form, because trust me, it is not worth waiting for the tracking for these things to finish. It is just not. It's worth it for the visual, but if you are, make sure you have like an editing team, just so you can have someone to exploit by putting them through all this. Would be my advice. But yeah, and also finding a background that matched my needs was an absolute nightmare. So what I had to do to get these backgrounds is use everyone's favourite software, ChatGPT. So what I would do is I would cut myself out, and then the version of me that would have no background, I would upload that to ChatGPT, and then it would make a background that was suitable for the shot that I needed. Because actually finding a royalty-free image of what I needed was virtually impossible. And fun fact, I'm actually still there. I don't know if you can see it, but what I actually ended up doing as well is I used the Magic Mask to cut my own head out of the picture that I downloaded from ChatGPT, because that is actually that's not the background that I have imported necessarily. That's the image with me in there with my head cut off to essentially do it, make sure that the other image didn't interfere. And that's actually a reason why when I look at camera 2, the camera doesn't switch, because I couldn't get my head to be cut off with camera 2. So if I turn lazily to the left, you could still see like me in there. So I had to be very careful about what angles I actually used, which is why when I look at camera 2, I don't actually switch, because that's when my face was the most visible. Yeah. Word to the wise, just keep your rotoscoping to short, stylish doses. Don't do it in the manner that I've just done it, unless you have some editing lackey that you can exploit to be put through it on your behalf. Would be my advice. But yeah, but in terms of what it's shot with, it's shot with my main camera, the Z50 Mark II. And there's this beautiful Sigma lens, I think it's called. I think it's a Nikon Sigma lens. It's a dead fit. And I really liked the visuals it gave off. Because I did actually have a manual vintage lens, but I just couldn't get it to work, because what would happen with it is I would use the lanyard that you saw in the earlier scene, which is actually why it was on, by the way, when I did the accidental first scene, is I would use the lettering on the lanyard to see if it was in focus, and then I would sit back and then it would be out of focus. But because I was sat so far away from the lens, I couldn't tell, you see. So I would do these whole monologues and all this scene and then not be in focus. Which is why I then switched to this Nikon Sigma lens, because obviously for what I needed a automatic focus, because as I said, I shoot all these documentaries myself. I do everything myself, and maybe when Kapow Planet grows, I can hire somebody to look through the monitors for me. But at this moment in time, that's not really possible. But yeah, once I switched to the Sigma lens, I was kind of like, oh, why did I bother even buying this Vivar lens? Like, this lens literally does the same job and it's in autofocus. Um, because I really wanted the vintage lens look, because obviously vintage lenses are quite romantic in nature visually, and this for me was talking about an old time in my life, so I thought the vintage look was quite necessary. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the lyric video for Talk to You by Sam Fender was actually a humongous inspiration for the vintage look throughout this documentary, because I just thought that video looked so gorgeous and beautiful, and I'm so glad that I went with the vintage look, because I think it just suits it perfectly. Now this, as I said, is the same sort of like colour sketch thing. As I said, if you are going to do anything, make sure you just take the lift out your footage, just so the paled out nature of the pencil sketch doesn't appear. But doing this scene particularly, because the main reason why I like doing voiceover scenes like this is it's a chance for me to sit back and remind myself why I'm making these documentaries. And it's always fun writing the voiceover paragraphs, because they're always kind of the most optimistic and happiest parts of the documentaries that I make. And it's always fun just to kind of sit back and cherry pick perfect moments from films or your favourite team to talk about during these voiceovers. And I think it's just fun just to have a moment in the documentary, especially as depressing as Road to the Snowball and Adulthood kind of are in subject matter, to have these nice voiceover scenes that are so positive and happy. It's just a great experience. This scene is actually one of my favourites, because to get around the copyright, I decided to read the line myself, because I do actually own the script physically. This is quite a simple idea. Obviously, cut out the sun, made it as yellow as possible, and then the scene that the sun is pasted over is saturated all the way down, so it's basically black and white. Because I was a bit worried that my line readings were butchering it a little bit, so what I did was I wanted to give the viewer something to look at to maybe distract from my terrible line read. That's literally the only reason why that some bit's there. And also I just wanted to do something cool. And I love rotoscoping. I've actually got an RA meeting coming up called Rotoscoping Anonymous, because I've literally addicted to it. Now I think about it, 6 out of the scenes in this whole documentary are rotoscoped. Maybe I do have a rotoscoping problem. But as I said, this is kind of the similar thing here, but I do have some interesting information towards the end of this scene to give you, and that is, do not rotoscope for this long. I know I've already said that, but especially when objects are involved. Do not do it, because it will chop and change whether the magic mask works time and time and time again, which is why you see a real pain B-roll here instead of like me drinking from the cinema cup that I planned originally. I cut it primarily because A, rotoscoping the cup as well as me was a nightmare. B, the cup thing wasn't really relevant to the documentary whatsoever and was just making it a hassle to edit. And C, well, the real pain B-roll was kind of enough, which is also another reason why there's not a second angle here, because I considered a real pain B-roll to be that second angle, which is why the multicam smart switch isn't seen here. And obviously this scene as well is like under half the length of the school monologue scene, so it wasn't really needed in my eyes to have a second camera. But yeah, I'm so glad I cut all the drinking the Pepsi Max stuff out of this scene, because it's like I said, me drinking Pepsi Max out of a movie cup that's not this film was just kind of a stupid idea and too much work for the rotoscoping, which is, as I said, why I got rid of it. This is the same background used for the school monologue. I thought I would have to use a different one because I'm wearing a different jumper in the school monologue, but thankfully it's the same colour anyway. Like in general with that black, because the other one I used had like a yellow hoodie on it. But yeah, to have a chance to talk about this film and to give a big old march to it was a great experience, and I loved it. And I was very nervous about this documentary coming out because I was a bit nervous about people knowing about why is this my favourite film of all time. And this scene is just beautiful anyway. I mean, I don't have to say much. Obviously, it's the colour page. But for this scene, I just knew that the dialogue needed to be said from the actual scene itself because I thought it just drove home my current headspace towards my former relationship with my best friend. And I knew that they could say it the best. I mean, they are Oscar-winning actors at the end of the day. But yeah, I was incredibly nervous when this documentary came out, and because when a movie is your favorite movie for a reason as personal as this, when you recommend a movie to someone, now they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know why he wants us to watch it," and I was a bit nervous about people knowing that information. But a lot of the time when something is uncomfortable like this, that's the reason to make it, in my opinion. And with that is the director's commentary for Adulthood, Healing Through a Real Pain. Thank you once again for sitting with me during my favourite part of these projects again, which is making these documentaries for you guys. I know that a lot of people just want to see the real thing, but I absolutely love making these. And I'm going to keep making them. But to be fair, for a lot of my content in the second phase, there's not going to be director's commentaries for those because they're saved for the big pieces of content. But as I said, stay tuned for more. Subscribe if you will. I need to get to 500 subscribers. I'm pretty sure, just so I can turn this into a job. If you want to help out, feel free. I'm not into that subscriber jargon, but thank you for listening with me again on a great project that I'm extremely proud of. Hopefully you've enjoyed it down below. Watch the whole trilogy. Give me your favourite out of the three. I personally think that this project is my favourite out of the three. Just because I think I mixed both worlds together quite well of Boyhood, Road to the Snowball and Boyhood to the Future. But if you have a different opinion, let me know. If Boyhood to the Future was ass and this is alright, let me know. If Boyhood, Road to the Snowball is still your favourite, let me know. But thank you for joining me, and that is the end of phase 1 of this channel.